I am back with Ben Ruegg.
Yo.
He's made his return.
Yeah, it's been almost a year.
I know, it has almost been a year.
Yeah, I remember driving after work, so I came in a tie, and I thought that was pretty funny, and a shirt, and I didn't pack anything different, so the previous video was pretty cool.
Thanks, man. I do notice that, we've got matching, look like we just came from working backline or something, at a gig. We're both wearing black.
Yeah, man.
Came off the show.
That's it.
Let's go. You've been a busy boy the last year since we last spoke.
Yeah.
You got new music. You've been sending me some teasers.
Yeah.
Well, full songs, but teasing as in, it hasn't been out yet. And then you've been doing a lot of music and then a lot of producing and dabbling into wrestling and all sorts of things, making music for that. I saw that was pretty cool. So, yeah, man, let's talk about the new songs that you sent me.
Sure.
So the first, the one you just sent me today, which I checked out, was Encounter.
Yes.
So when will that be? When is that going to be?
Okay, that one, man, that's a cool story. So.
Oh no, when would it be dropping?
Dropping, yeah. So I don't know yet.
Okay.
I like that, and I like the fact that I almost released that. I'm not joking. It was a really wonderful moment that will stick in my head and has taught me a lot. I almost released it. I would say maybe in April of last year. I had submitted it to get distributed, and then I stopped. I felt this urge to stop myself and be like, no, we got some work to do, bro. So I stopped that. So on DistroKid, it still remains that it's there. So I don't know yet, and the reason I pulled it back is because I knew that instinctively it wasn't finished. There's things that I needed to fix and figure out and work out with it. So the one that you heard now is. That's the one I'll probably send to Scott Seabright, and then I'll let him mix it. I've told him it's my baby and that I've worked so hard, but man, that guy's got some ears. And when I sent him the other song, what he sent back, cool. Yeah, so Encounter is cool, man. That song is about, I know that we shouldn't really talk about that sort of stuff, but if you listen, I reckon it's pretty neat. If you listen to the lyrics of that song at the time, so we'd had that podcast here, and then And then I just found that riff one day, and it reminded me of some shoegazy sort of Deftones vibes. And it just had a vibe, and then I just followed the vibe, and then the lead guitar, which is what I like the most through it. It's not like really lead; it's just like a a guitar sound.
Melodic,
yeah.
Very Koino Yoken Deftones vibe.
Yo.
So I really get that with like a little bit of melodic guitar thrown in, like heavy backing, but then. Like very melodic kind of echoey vocals and that you got going. So that's the best one I've heard you do so far.
Thanks. Yeah,
so,
that's
I guess I look forward to when you drop it, but I've got it already, so I might just.
Yes, yeah. Don't drop it. Don't. You put it up on. What's it called? LimeWire.
Yeah. Oh, as if that's still going.
Probably somewhere.
Yeah. I'll help you with exposure. LimeWire, FrostWire, torrenting, Napster.
Napster's a good one.
Yeah, I'll put it up on there. If anyone's still going.
I would bootleg it at the flea markets.
At the flea markets.
Yeah. That's how we used to buy music sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but the old like some little old vinyls and tapes. Some tapes. I never really tapes are just I bought some tapes when I was young, but it was just before me.
Right.
So CDs were trying to just rip CDs. That's what I remember doing for ages.
Yeah, man. So that song, when it does drop, I don't know when it's going to happen. So if we go back, I did stop doing it, and then I used Logic Drummer, and then I actually found a guy from South Africa who plays drums on that song, and he plays on the other one as well. So he's just a fiver, and I heard him, and I sent him the tracks, and he sent it back, and I heard his drums when I was up north, and I couldn't really mix it. I had my laptop with Logic, so I loaded them in. I was like, yeah, man, this guy's he's figured out how to bring the vibe together, and so now it's just a matter of giving it to him. And so that song, lyrically and what it's about is so precious to me in some ways because it's kind of that idea of, man, everyone goes through this where you don't know what's going to happen. You didn't even know what was going to happen today.
Nope.
Yeah, and so there's two ways that I've learned how to deal with that. One is that you can panic about it and get all worked up, which does nothing. Or you can just step into it and just follow wherever that takes you. And that takes courage. I reckon it takes courage. And then once you get that, it's still not always nice.
It's uncomfortable. It's like trying to let go of that control. I think I remember we talked about this last time, about letting go of some control. Because even I find with the confinements of my daily life, especially with work and things, and there's some kind of issues you have at work or wherever it may be, I find that like as soon as I start stressing about what my boss might think, what the manager might think, and worrying about this, and then it's like, why?
Yeah.
It's like, did the best I could, like, if they say it, and then they'll probably come back and be like, it's all good. And then I just wasted how much time being like, oh, is it going to be
Right.
okay? And then it was fine.
And then ultimately during that process, most people should feel, I reckon everyone feels it, they feel something drawing them in a direction, if that makes sense. That's your instinct, right?
Yeah.
So if you go with that, typically it works out, but then there are times where you probably should have just thought a little bit more before you made a decision on doing that. So that's essentially...
That's a hard one to get right, though.
Of course.
Because sometimes you got to, like, lean in,
100%.
and other times it's, like, too much thinking, but then you need to put a bit of thought. But then there's the overthinking. There's a fine balance.
Yeah, my favorite analogy is with my kids, actually. I'm like, I'll give you $10. I want you to figure out what you want to spend that $10 on. And their mind will go straight to, like, something they can have immediately. And I say, well, if you were to hold on to that for a little bit, and maybe discern and think about it, then you might realize that if you just, instead of having instant gratification, delayed gratification, you could get $10 more next week, and then you could buy something even better. Or, whatever it is, instead of just $10 is burning a hole in their pocket, which, to be fair, all kids go through that, man. I remember that as a kid, eh?
Oh, 100%.
Walking around with money, wanting to buy stuff.
$10 at the dairy was... I felt like a rich man. Back when you could get the 5-cent lolly packs. Oh, man.
5-cent lolly packs?
Yeah.
Is this a thing?
Well, yeah, like it was like those it was like you could just get a bunch. I remember the dairy by my primary school, and you just get like a bunch of lollies, and they give it to you for like, I don't know if it was okay, like probably not 5. It was 5 cents like for like
Yes,
if you get
yes.
one pack.
Yeah, gotcha.
But then I'm trying to remember how they did it. So long
They
ago
used
since
to have
I
like
thought
so
about
many
it.
different ones, and you could pick which you wanted,
Yeah.
and then they put it into a bag, and it would be like 5 cents per lolly.
Yeah.
Together you make.
Sorry,
it.
that's what I meant. 5
Yes,
cents per
I
lolly.
got you.
Yeah, that was the bomb. But that was like going to the dairy with $10 was like, oh man, you could buy the whole dairy with it.
Well, now it's kids go and buy stationery and stuff like that, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, buying lollies. Yeah, it's destroying my teeth.
Nah, it's fine.
But back then, hey, it was fun. Hey, we had a good time. 5-second rule. It's funny. It just reminds me of something. I had a 5-second rule and I got sick. It didn't work. So
Right.
if any young kids are listening, the 5-second rule doesn't work. By the way, sorry.
Understandable. I think it's good
Yeah.
advice. Children take notice,
Yeah.
and parents and adults too. Yeah.
It's funny because adults still do it. Sometimes I remember like, oh yeah, it's on the floor, and then I'm like, oh, I remember that time that you dropped it on the floor and it got covered in something and you ate it and then you got sick for 2 weeks. Sick. Yeah, and then the other song.
Mm-hmm.
So that's coming out so I asked you to tell me the name before. So
This chaotic sea. Yeah.
So that's, you really do have a bit of a Smashing Pumpkins kind of tone to
Okay.
a lot of your songs.
Cool.
I don't know why I think that, because I told you this last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you kind of got like your voice sometimes, it kind of goes into that sort of style, and then also like the guitars.
Thanks.
There's just something about it. I just think Smashing Pumpkins.
Well, then if you look at like those artists that were coming through, I mean, I listened to a lot of that stuff, and I respected a lot of those artists because they don't really care what anyone else thinks about their music. They're making it because they want to make it. And so Billy Corgan, I mean, crazy. And then you read about like, well, obviously what it was like to be in that band. But yeah, his sound influence, that whole grunge area, or like,
Grunge, hard rock,
yeah, and
metal-esque.
that's where I grew up, and I listened to a lot of the melodies. And as I mentioned last time I was here, it's like Pink Floyd is a massive thing for me as well. So there's all those elements that happen, and they don't intentionally happen, but I'm always, as I try to teach my students and friends and family, is like, just be your authentic self, and whatever comes from that, own it.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think also was saying before as well. We talked a little bit about commercial like music and radio and things like that. And I think it is very important to understand music will always come from a pure place as a creative musician.
Right. But
there will be a point for, I think we talked about this the last time as well, like the career part,
Yeah.
Is it career? Is it to support myself? Is it for money? Is it for this? Is it for something professional? But then you have to then realize that if you're doing that, then you're reliant on the music industry model of how to make money, which is going to be quite restrictive, and you're going to be making money for a specific audience. And now it's not really about the art anymore. It's about the audience itself and trying to sell. which is then you become like any other business, essentially. So for some people, I think some people enjoy it. I know there's producers out there who enjoy the challenge of trying to make money the challenge of making music that people are going to like and having that pleasing sounds and production. I was chatting to a guy, Riley, on the last podcast about this and about the latest kind of styles of production. It's not as clean as it was in the 2010s.
Right.
It's actually gotten a bit slightly rougher again.
Cool.
And I feel like, and even in the pop world, like it doesn't feel as clean,
Yeah.
which is actually quite an interesting reaction. But I'm also not entirely surprised because I think the younger generation probably, I think, wants something a bit more authentic because things were getting too polished for too long.
Do you listen to? I mean, I'll listen to it in the car when my wife is listening to it. But like, do you keep up with like what's in the top 40 on ZM and The Edge and stuff like that?
To a point, like Sabrina
Yeah.
Carpenter and like latest
Bro,
Billie
we could
Eilish,
talk
and
all day
then
about Sabrina Carpenter. I tell you that much,
great pop songs,
dude. Insane.
great pop songs.
And anyone that says to me, like, as a songwriter, I always find it fascinating that when I speak with other artists, you know, different times they'll flip over and they'll understand. But regardless of who the artist is, if it's a great song, you should acknowledge either it's a great song or it's a great production. And I liked, when I heard Taste, oh man, when I saw the video first, I was like, wow, that video is probably a bit risque and pushing it too far. And then I listened to some of the lyrics and Taste as well. It's like, okay, maybe not always suitable, but the actual song, the melody, and the production of it, it reminds me of the time when rock was kind of making its mark in the top 40. So you'd hear stuff like that guitar-driven sound come through. And Sabrina Carpenter she's got that, but she's also got Espresso, and she's got Please Please, and whatever it is, and then Bed Chem, and they're all just she's working with some great producers. She's got a great voice, man, great timbre. And was it Chappelle Roan? Is that her name? Chapel Roan. Have you heard her?
No, maybe, but I can't put a song to the name.
Yeah, so I would say the cool thing about where pop is right now, and it's always been like this anyway.
Goes in cycles.
The mainstream, no one knows what's going to be big.
No
one. And when it does, then that person is then taken from this level of their current notoriety. Is that the right word?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And then they get shifted up here, and then all of a sudden now they're relevant. But for all of that time down here when they're struggling, trying to write songs and building their music career, to just be up here, how that must affect and change. We spoke about that last time. So that's why I keep my ear on the top 40, just to see what's going on, not so that I can write to be on top 40.
It's nice to know what's happening.
Yeah,
because I like that as well. To like because I kind of didn't really listen to much music for like I think like early 2020s. I kind of just didn't really listen to that much music,
right?
And really kept up with what was going. But in that time, that's where I felt like this shift happened. Where it kind of was like, because it's funny as well, like you go back, like, I don't know, for probably, like, talking about being in the club was a big thing for a while in the pop music. That was the big thing. But that's kind of like gone now, which is good because that was getting like incredibly repetitive. We're in the club.
It's on my gym playlist, eh? So, like
Sabrina
I was
Carpenter
playing,
and stuff.
no, the old, like, the hits, what is it? Timberland.
The
like
way
his
I are and
productions,
stuff.
dude.
Oh, his production was.
I love
that changed the game.
Mary J. Blige, all that like hip hop rap, but it was in the mainstream.
Like pop rap,
it was great.
Pop rap, yeah.
I'm all about that.
Yeah, but I wasn't about it at the time, but I can appreciate it now. But I did enjoy T-Pain. T-Pain was great. Shout out to T-Pain. What a great voice.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, bro. So the last year, a bit of a journey with doing a lot of extra music. You've obviously producing a lot of your students as well.
At the moment, I had an opportunity to work with a band that were former students. As in regards to what I'm doing at the moment, not so much. But
not so much. Oh.
No. It's more about I've had some really cool opportunities to work with some artists in general, or just focus on increasing my or extending my abilities as a producer and as a songwriter, and then teaching some of that stuff to the students at my school, and in hope of them being able to produce their own music. I ran a course at my previous, my school I'm at the moment last year that taught them how to use BandLab.
What's BandLab?
Yeah, you don't know.
I don't know what BandLab is.
So basically,
no.
Logic, it's
Yep.
but it's online, so kids can use that, and it teaches them how to. It's like Fruit Loops or
Yeah.
Soundtrap. Yeah, Soundtrap. There's another one. I taught them how to structure ideas, which were just loops that they could pick and choose and put them in there.
Yep.
So that's cool. So
That's
in the
good fun.
future, 100% going to be producing my students, and hopefully this year with especially the seniors.
No, that's cool. So what sort of like the biggest takeaway you've been working with these other artists, and then what you're teaching in the classes to your students? What's a big, apart from the structuring, what's another big kind of lesson you're teaching?
What you mentioned before, like when I try to explain to students to listen to as much music without having having some sort of predefined idea about what that music is. So this might be controversial, but I teach my daughter, for example, this morning I double checked she understood. She's 7. And I say to her, when you're listening to this, which was Meshuggah, I said, remind yourself and know that this is Meshuggah and what that word means. So if I play Meshuggah to anybody that doesn't know Meshuggah, they're going to tell me it sounds horrible.
Yeah.
But I can fall asleep to that music and I know what I'm listening for. So I'm trying to train my students how to take that. I don't play the Meshuggah, believe me, but take that idea of whatever they're listening to, figure out why they like it, what they like it for, so that they can enjoy all styles of music. And if they don't like it, they can be objective as to why they don't like it.
Yeah, it's like really trying to figure out the reason. Is it
100%.
like the twang of the guitar? Is it the vocals? Is it the drumming? Is it the production? Like, what is the reason? Like, yeah, I feel like that's something I've gotten very good at now. And if I don't like something, I'll try and listen to it a few times. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, do I really not? Okay, do I really not like it, or is it just for the first listen I don't like it?
Yeah, so I get them to think. I get people in general to think about that. When someone says that they don't like a particular artist, and they get real, it seems like they get reacting really badly about it. That's fine, but I also at the same time I want to kind of know why that is. Like, what is it about that song or the artist that you don't like? And it's actually pretty cool because it's almost like a mirror reflecting back to them, because then they have to figure out what it is, and in most cases they don't know. So then it gives them an opportunity to go find out what they can. And in some cases, they end up falling in love with those artists. And a great example for me would be like, I have a tattoo of the Tool symbol on my arm, because Tool is, one of my favorite bands of all time.
Tool's life.
Yeah, that's right. Tool is life. And when I was young, I hated that. And I think I mentioned that previously, but over time, it just kind of grew on me and fell in love with that. Same with Meshuggah. I used to think didn't really understand it. Same with rap and hip hop.
Yep.
And even like pop music. Like if I listen to something on the radio now, I really listen to the intention of what that singer is. Someone like Teddy Swims, for example, I don't really know too much about, but obviously he's a big deal. And I just want to hear what's going on, because behind what you're hearing on the radio is a real person who's come from somewhere. And in most cases, they, as we mentioned before, they go from that level to being this level, and then, man, what that does to somebody.
Yeah, it would be such a strange psychological experience to go from I'm just an artist locally doing my thing, to then someone's like, that's an opportunity to make some money, and then suddenly it's it's like your life is now, I played to 100 people, now I'm playing to 1,000, now I'm playing to 5,000 in a very short time.
Yeah, man, that must freak someone out.
Just be very weird. And then like you're writing your song and you're like, I used to just write this a bit more for me. Now I'm writing it to keep in mind a lot of other aspects.
100%.
And then the producer's like, no, that's not going to sell. You can't put in that vocal and stuff. It'd be very odd.
That was the A&R days, I would say. We were never part of that, but when they were finding bands to sign, because the record business. If you haven't seen it already, I highly recommend going to watch. It's on Netflix. It's about, is it called How We Stole Music or How Music Was Stolen? But it's
I haven't watched it.
Oh, dude, it's like that was my life. As kids, I knew the FTP sites to go to download the albums before they were released. So I would, be on IRC. Me and my mates would use IRC chat, and then we would get into the chat groups that were run or had people in it that knew someone who worked in the CD industry, or rather was working, as you find out in this TV show, working at the manufacturing plant.
Oh, yeah, and you get it early. Yeah,
Yeah, so they would bring a copy home, and then
Mean.
so I had like some of the Korn albums, Deftones' White Pony Man. I had before it was released to the public.
Wow, that's
Probably
mean.
about two months before that. So we were in Soulfly, but as I would always do, I would always buy the CD when it came out. So when it came out and hit the shops, I bought that CD because that's what we did. But yeah, times have changed, man. It's a different world now.
Very much so. Just on that subject though, I was talking about like A&R and sort of like the record label and other people being involved in the music. I think one of my favorite scenes ever, and I think it's always important for any artist to watch, is if you've seen the Bohemian Rhapsody movie.
Yes.
And that's that scene when the label's in the room when they play the song Bohemian Rhapsody, and the record label's like, what the hell is this? No. And they were so adamant on the song to have it in its full entirety, 6 minutes or something, the length of it. And then there's so much backlash and no one's supporting it, and it changed the world. So I think it's just important to. I always remember moments like that. There's quite a few other examples of that in bands, but that one is always like one of the biggest songs of all time. Could have never happened.
Yeah, and isn't that like the story of life?
Pretty much.
And that's what I'm trying to teach, and I'm going through this process right now. Like I've got these two songs. I've booked a show at the Hawkins Theatre for May the 3rd in Papakura. That's my hometown. My drummer, who was going to be here, couldn't make it, so that's okay. But she's joining me on stage again since we played one song together when Channeled was playing a show. She just jumped up. We saw her in the crowd because she said she was coming. I was like, "Do you remember Thank You from when we were at high school?" And she's like, "Yep." And Michelle, who already we already knew it. She, like Heidi, jumped up on stage in front of all these people, and we nailed that song. We hadn't played it for close to 15 years, I'd probably say.
Wow.
Maybe even longer.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it was like, oh, man, we've got to do something together. So, yeah, I've got the show booked. I don't know if... in my head, I'm like, we're going to sell the place out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but who knows if it's going to happen? The thing is that having that idea of I want to move into something is, man, scary as. Because if I'd convinced myself that it's not going to happen, or if I convince myself before it happens that it isn't going to happen and then I cancel it, I've had those thoughts, but I'm not going to, because I just know that things will work out. I know, and that's real weird. But also on that topic on the radio just the other morning, there was a lady who was talking on National. I listen to National now. Thank you to whoever suggested that to me. But they always have great people talking, and she was saying that she teaches people, and she found out herself that having a vision board in your house with what it is you want to accomplish will actually make it more likely to happen, even if that sounds hairy-fairy and bizarrely out of the world.
No.
But it's true, and the best anecdotal evidence she gave to why that is because it will kind of get you doing small things on that thing, and those small bits add up and creates a movement, as opposed to looking at it and going, never going to happen, and not even starting anything. It's the small incremental changes that you're implementing into your life that will make that happen. Yeah, so I get up at 4:45 in the morning, man, still to this day, except for Mondays, and then in the weekends I get up at 6. And then I'll spend probably about 30 minutes working on something. It could be the album art, so that, the image for this Chaotic Sea, I just use Canva, and it's taken me a fair while to figure out what I want. All that sort of stuff is like small things that I can do, and then essentially since I last saw you, my life, I have not had a chance. It's not that I've not had a chance to rest. It's just I've chosen not to rest. The way that I would describe it is kind of jumping into a cart on a haunted that's the wrong one. A cart in like some sort of carnival ride, and I don't know where it's going to take me, but I'm not going to panic about it. I'm just going to let it go and enjoy the ride. That's how it's been. And then I think in the holidays, over the Christmas holidays, for sure, I had like 2.5 weeks where I just did nothing other than go like swimming in the beach sometimes.
That's the way.
Yeah, but like even this morning, I did like 5K park run before I came here. I was up at 6 this morning.
Nice. That is, it's commitment to it. I find that like if you, what's the saying about like holidays? Take them regularly, but not for too long.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
That's
and like when you rest, like actually rest. Because I think a lot of people do this, and you're a bit of a workaholic. I'm a little bit of a workaholic, and what ends up happening sometimes is you feel guilty of the rest. You're like, oh, I could be productive. I could
Sure.
be doing this, could be doing that, a gazillion billion things. And then you end up procrastinating and nothing's done at all. So what I've found is one thing I do a lot more now is I actually just have a nap.
My man.
I'm just like, nothing's getting done. I'm kind of tired. The best thing to do right now, if I can, it will
Yeah.
be to squeeze in, just lie down,
Yeah.
shut the eyes, and
Do you
then
believe in active relaxation? Do you do that?
you like exercise and
Yeah,
that.
well, it doesn't have to, like, 5K running is not a relaxation. That is torture.
For some people it might be.
Oh, sure. But, like, I'm saying, like,
David
a
Goggins of the
bike
world.
ride or something where it's like you're not exerting so much energy
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's not enjoyable, but at the same time, you're not distracted by anything. I think mental rest is more important than physical rest,
Mm-hmm.
100%. And if and because we're so distracted with pretty much everything nowadays,
Yeah, it's
we have to
insane.
be able to find a time for us to not be like that. And so active relaxation. I used to ride, and stupidly enough, with like headphones in.
Listen
when
to
I was on my
musical
bike.
podcasts and stuff, yeah.
Podcasts or books, audio books, man. But that was during COVID times when no one was on the road. But as you know, as I figured out, you can't do that. You got to be completely present to know if there's a car next to you or a
Yeah.
truck coming.
Well, you'll die.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Because you're just so distracted, like with something. I used to try the one earphone in, one earphone out on
Yeah.
the bike, and even then it doesn't work. It doesn't really work because you're just like, now you're blocked off from all the sound from over this direction and
Sure.
all this direction, and yeah, it's like, yeah, you're playing with fire a bit unless you're on a bike path, and even then you don't know. You've got someone on his scooter or someone
Yeah.
on their longboard. That's a
Yeah.
that's a really popular thing now. The electric longboards I see
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
So yeah, look out for yourself out there because it doesn't. That's the thing on the road. It doesn't take much. You know?
No, I found that out. Actually, I was cycling back. I just bought this road bike, not a motorbike, a road cycle, and I never had the drop handle one before. And it feels really tight, eh?
Yeah,
Like,
when you're leaning
yeah,
over.
and so I just drove it because this is after my seizure where I couldn't drive, so I'd been dropped off to pick it up, and as I was riding home, someone was pulling into the like it was through Manderewa, and she was pulling into a car park, and she passed me, so she knew I was there, and I still had momentum, and she obviously had forgotten, and so she kind of clipped my back wheel as I went through, and I went sliding across the road. Yeah. And she pulled over, and she came out, and people came out to help me, and I was cool with that. Like, I had no issues, with anybody. I just said, hey, look, make sure you look out for it. I wasn't angry about it, and they were helpful, and jumped back on. But I had bruises and stuff, and you never know what's going to happen, man. You gotta. But I like that sort of stuff. If you put yourself into that situation where there's no distraction, you have to deal with what's in your head. Mm-hmm. Man, it's powerful because you get your best ideas when you're in silence or when you're not being distracted. And if you end up continually distracting yourself, you'll lose. You won't find what you're looking for. That makes sense?
Yeah, if you're constantly busy mentally, and even if you occupy yourself with too much work or too much things, you're almost like afraid to be with yourself, essentially, to like confront, like, well, what is it I actually want?
Yeah.
What is it I actually want to achieve? Which is not easy. Like, it's not always that comfortable. I mean, I have those conversations with myself every week. Like, was this the plan? This is what I wanted to do? Is this what I wanted to pursue?
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Which is always the conclusion I come to at the end. It's just like, I think it's also, depending on what you're trying to do, is like the key will be always, I reckon, is just the patience with what you're doing a lot, not like instantaneous, like, yeah, done. And things always, for me anyway, take longer than I always sometimes believe. Oh, this won't take long. And it's like, no, to do things properly take a little bit longer than
Well, I
you
mean,
anticipate.
that's why for me, not hitting release on Encounter has been probably the best thing that's happened since then, because I had to, after Channeled finished. So Channel's not really finished. We're just on hiatus. That's the way I like to think of it. Everyone's busy. Brandon's killing it still with the Boondocks, as I mentioned last time. Matt's busy. Michelle's busy. I'm busy. It just went on hiatus. So, at the moment, with where music is and what I was doing, it's allowed me to know that Channeled is kind of on hiatus, so I can focus on myself. And when you invest in yourself, man, you'll hear so many sports stars and people talk about this. When you invest and you take stock in what you can do in yourself, you can achieve really cool things. But one of the best bits of advice I ever got given was by someone called Rebel Reed, and she told me, she said, talent bank. Know people around you that can do things so that like if they're an expert in that area, just cut off control that you have and let them do it, because everyone's a control freak. So with this experience of writing all these songs, like those two kind of this Chaotic Sea and Encounter, almost like a pair. They will be like it's like a B-side, I guess. I don't know which one will be which, but it doesn't really matter. They don't do B-sides anymore, really. But the point is that those two songs came about at the same time, and they were exploring that idea of, yeah, man, I have no idea what's going to happen. You know, like, I think that's the best thing about life. And I think the more people think, we're getting pretty philosophical here, but
let's go.
The more that people, when you get to a certain age or a certain mindset, some people get it earlier, we just stop trying to control everything and just enjoy the experience. And the experience is going to have ups and downs and all sorts of really crazy things, but that's the best part about it. When I look back at all the stuff that happened, there have been some crazy moments in our music career and what we've done, and some of them have been terrible and some of them have been really good, but they've pushed me in a different direction. And then when I go to reminisce about it, we laugh about it, have a bit of a joke, you know. That's why Channeled was like one of my favorite things to have with those three people up on stage. We, as a group of four, man, we would laugh when we make mistakes because we knew that it wasn't intentional. It was a bit of, you know, it was just a little muck up.
Well, that's the other thing as well, is with when you're in a group like that and you play so much and you're rehearsing and you're writing in the studio and you're trying to get things to what you believe to be the perfect song or the perfect experience. And then you kind of, I think it doesn't really exist. But at the same time, when you go play live, it's like people want to have an engaging experience with you. They don't really care about you hitting the wrong note. Unless the vocals are out of key for 3 songs, then they might care. Or maybe they will. But apart from that, they probably won't.
Did you go to any live concerts last year?
Yeah, I went to a lot of like local ones. Saw the Boondocks a bunch of times. I recently went to see Corey.
And Gideon?
And Gideon, yep, went to see that. That was really really awesome the other week at Ding Dong.
Was that good?
Awesome instrumental metal music, like done really well.
Yeah. So just hot take, I'll mention it here now. So Corey and I have been working on some stuff together as well.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, nice.
So he's very talented, man. I love his energy.
Yeah, he's full of energy. His drumming is like insane.
Yeah.
It's so tight and so yeah, it's just incredibly creative and precise and just like full of energy. That's how I describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, watching him, I'm just like, guys, full of energy. Boom, and then the guitaring, getting great. You know, Shepherd's Rain, also really great. So yeah, saw them. Tonight I'm gonna go see Exit Sign. They're playing. Big fan, so I'll be checking that out. Looking forward to that. And then who else did I see last year? I went to Dougfest. I saw heaps. God,
was that in Hamilton?
Yeah. Shout out Doug. Always gotta give a shout out to him.
Shout out Doug.
So I just saw so many bands. I mean, who did I see? I saw Crooked Royals, saw Caridian, I saw Static, Hamilton Band, I saw Pink Plates have been on here. They're a lot of fun, crazy punk band. And then I saw Stone Child, they're from Christchurch, and then I saw Achilles Complex. This is really a memory test. This is
amazing. Yeah.
And then because I interviewed them all, so I'm like trying to remember all their names.
Yeah, because you were there to do it, the official podcaster of Dogfest.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then let me see. There was it was like 10 in total. So then there was is that as far as my memory goes at the moment? Maybe. I'll come back to you. But anyway, so there was a lot of amazing talent there and a lot of great bands who I had seen a bunch of times. Obviously, I know Caridian and Crooked Royals and Pink Plates and a few of those, but I saw a lot of new bands. I'd never seen Achilles Complex before. They were amazing. Real great progressive. Like, I'll be honest, if you're a progressive in that world, I'm quite hard to impress. Because it's real easy for everybody to go on their tangents.
Oh, dude, okay. Once again, this is a good topic. I just want to just take you off that one for a moment. Tell me, please explain to me some of your taste in progressive metal, and let me know.
And this episode is sponsored by me. Do you struggle with sleeping, and particularly struggle with light and sound while sleeping? I think it's time you get the sleep that you deserve. My business, Infinity Sleep, specializes in sleep well-being products to enhance your sleep quality. I've been using sleep masks and earplugs for the past 3 years to help improve my sleep, and I'm so stoked to finally have ones that have been created for my own sleeping needs. If you would like to learn more about my business, Infinity Sleep, please visit our website www.infinitysleep.co.nz. By making a purchase, you are directly not only supporting a local Kiwi business, but also this podcast. Use the promo code ONLYSCOTT15% and receive 15% off your first order. Go to www.infinitysleep.co.nz to get the sleep that you deserve.
What is progressive metal?
Progressive metal is obviously has so many different meanings because it depends on the different eras you're focusing on.
Right.
But I guess if we're going to focus on more of the modern era of progressive metal, it'll come from more of like, let's just be honest, and the influence will be from bands like Meshuggah.
Sure. Yeah, that would be we carry on. Yep, I see where you're going.
Yeah. And then it was kind of like this, like I said, the modern progressive metal. Mm-hmm. So it coming into bands that were like Periphery.
I knew that's why I stopped talking, because I knew that the next step was going to there.
Tesseract.
Yep.
Kind of After the Burial. I'll put them in there.
Who are they? Sorry.
They're another progressive metal band.
Check them out. Sorry if I offended anyone with that
one. You don't know all the bands. No. And who else can I throw in there? There are more, but there's a lot more. I guess Architects kind of, but I wouldn't say they're really a progressive metal band as such.
Right.
But there was this sort of genre of like, I guess you could also say like the gent, right? Kind of got lumped in with it.
Yeah, that's what happened.
That's sort of what happened. And there's just seems to be like, that style's really cool. But it's been overdone to shit.
Yeah, let me jump in here. Do you think... Do you think, though, it came to a point where this is how I felt anyway, that it just became everyone was trying to like one-up each other on the most technical thing that they could possibly play that didn't always necessarily sound good. So take a guess. I'll let you know. I listened to a progressive metal album this morning when I was running. Haven't heard it for a long time. It's I would say it's reasonably recent. They're an instrumental band, and I think they're fantastic. That's a great example. This band is a great example of does play technical, does have gent, but as melodic as anything, and they know what they're doing. Like, they're not trying to one-up in my mind, not trying to one-up anybody. Take a guess at which band I was talking about.
Explosions in the Sky?
No, I don't. Who are they?
It's an instrumental progressive metal.
They're pretty well known. They're very well known. I'd say the guitarists.
Animals as Leaders?
Yeah, Animals. I can't remember the name of the album. It's got like a flower on its black and the silver flower that comes...
Apart from the first album, which had that song CFAO, I don't really know much of it.
Oh man, the album I listened to this morning, it's just... I was watching Matt Gaska, drumming, on them, like they have the videos, like they'll promote the symbols of the drum kit or whatever, and he is just a machine. Like, I don't know how they do it. That's why I like progressive metal, is for that reason. But then there's that element of it's just too much. Like I think Periphery got it. They get it right in my mind. Sorry, what do you think? Where does Periphery sit in the world?
I've honestly haven't delved deep into all the discography, but when I do listen to their songs, I think it's more for me, because everything's very impressive. Obviously, right. You cannot deny how impressive it is, but at the end of the day, for me, it will come down to a few elements, and the voice I find to be a bit doesn't do much.
Right, I get that. That's like Meshuggah. Some people would just not enjoy it because the voice sounds...
Yeah, I really enjoy it because as far as like heavy hardcore vocals go, I'm like that's really good and it is nice. But yeah, totally get it. Not everyone's going to enjoy that. But for me, like in Periphery, when there's the heavy moments, I'm like that's very cool, and the melodic moments. Instrumentally, I'm like, okay, this is cool.
What about Dream Theater? Did you ever get into Dream Theater?
I had a little phase of listening to Dream Theater. I did enjoy, a lot of when they kind of like a lot of some of their early '90s stuff, which had like obviously Pull Me Under. I mean that's a great song. Lie.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like that song. And then they had I haven't delved deep into like listening to albums like over and over again, but there was one album which had. Was it 2000? Systematic Chaos?
Oh, man, that's a pretty cool... That's a cool album.
And then there's one song on there... Oh, man, I used to love watching the video of them play it, because it was like so cool with like the riffage and instrumental and the vocals. He's not. I wouldn't say the guy who sings is the best vocalist.
That's probably the reason why a lot of my friends say
get
that they
turned
don't
off.
like it. Is because of the vocals. But they're very much like that style of vocals is like, I would say it's like late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
Progressive rock singing.
Yeah, and but I like a fair few songs off that album, but it's been a minute since I've listened to that. But yeah, so I did quite like some of their stuff, but I just think that it's funny because it's meant to be this progressive, like, you know, the world is your oyster with progressive metal, but that always seems to come back to these, like, this little box where people are in. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, well, that's a great take. I think the one band you didn't mention, which I found fascinating, was Polyphia. And the reason they cracked me up so much is
they've changed so much.
Tim Henson.
Yeah,
I just love the nonchalant. Hey, look, I can shred like crazy and make it look so easy. I would say the cool thing about that is, as I've seen, it actually inspires a lot of like younger kids to pick up a guitar and try to. It's like back in our day, bro, knowing the cheat codes to games or like combos and finishing moves to like Mortal Kombat. And now for some of these kids, it's instead of that, you know, how to play something on guitar. And so I've seen a few kids that can play the, what's it called, Goat?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then some other ones that they started doing with the classical guitars that they got custom made by Ibanez.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, just insane. But they do it in a way that doesn't look like it's difficult to.
Yeah. Playing with God, that's one.
Yes.
And they shred on these like. There's that one, and then there's another one they're shredding on these like nylon guitars, and you're like, you're just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, here's this kid trying to like play a C chord and not have their finger sore, and then there's this guy like just
like half asleep,
leg folded over the other, drinking like cold, you know, ice brew coffee.
Yeah,
you know, with a fedora.
Another day.
I love that.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
They managed to hit their last album they released. I've talked about it on this podcast quite a bit because the last album I thought it was their best by far because they included quite a few. It was them dabbling into like the pop. Like trying to do like more vocals with their music, but having different types because they had Chino on it from Deftones.
I actually haven't heard this.
Oh, really recommend it. Really cool. Okay. And then they had this girl I've talked about it on here. I love this song ABC.
Okay.
And that was like their step into doing like pop music with technical guitars. Cool. And how do you find this balance? And I think it's like the best technical rock pop song I've ever heard. I think it's ever been made.
Okay.
So recommend the album.
Statement. You've heard it here.
I've said it a lot.
Okay, we've said it multiple times. So.
I've said it so many times. But Polyphia is interesting because when they started, they kind of were in that progressive metal world.
Yeah.
And the stuff that they made, like, I do remember it when it kind of came out, and I was like, oh, another one, sort of doing the periphery, sort of Meshuggah / Tesseract / other, you know, music.
I don't think anyone will, in my mind. I've never seen Meshuggah live, which really bothers me.
I know, neither. I really would love to.
I was watching it this morning, you know, waking up the neighborhood as well. That's a lie, I didn't have it that loud. But I was showing my daughter, and we were watching, they would have been on their Immutable tour. Just the fact they're so commanding on stage by standing there, and the flashing lights, and just the rhythm is so tight. It's one of my favorite styles of music to listen to simply because it's like a drone. It always takes me to think about ancient music where they would be using, you know, whatever custom made instruments, but there would be a rhythmic drone and then they would get themselves into a trance. That's the way I think about it. It's like if you think about American Native Indians when they'd be like dancing around a fire and how powerful that must have felt for them and obviously transformed a lot of people's lives. In my mind, this may be, you know, again, someone's like, no, that's crazy. But in Meshuggah, it's so low tuned. It's so heavy and I don't know. It's just, there's an energy that exists there and they're seasoned vets at what they do. But to be able to have the mental capacity to remember the riffs that they play perfectly, they must themselves be in a trance. And that's my favorite thing about music, bro, is when I can see someone on stage who's in the zone, like they're in the flow state. You can't fake that. You could try, but if someone makes a mistake and they come out of it, that's cool. But when they're in there and they've got their eyes closed and they're singing and performing, you know, like it's so cool. And you can see people when they're on stage and they're figuring out the stage for the first time, especially new artists. They're so worried about what other people are thinking that they can't get themselves into that space. They can't become vulnerable. It just takes time. And once they get there, it's as an audience member, if you're a really good participating audience member, you're not on your phone chatting to your friend or whatever it is, you're with that person on stage. Can't beat it, man. It's the real deal.
Oh yeah, that is the real deal, and that's what I love so much about the local shows. And like recently, is I feel like a lot of younger people as well are much more engaged than they've been in a while with local music, which I've really been great to see. There's not as many phones at gigs that they I feel like there used to be maybe 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's an interesting change, like seeing a lot of things like that, which I think is really really great. Yeah, I want to talk about you wrote a song for a wrestler.
Dude, I'm happy to chat your era of wrestling. Yes, I did. Yes, under the name Channeled. But I've written actually a few. I've written a few of them. I've got a whole bunch, and I don't know how many still use them. But yeah, I was right. Anyway, carry on.
That's
carry on.
What was his name? The one I saw and heard, was it Jay Rilla?
Jay Rilla, man.
Yeah.
I tell you what. So I used to referee for IPW, which is a local company in New Zealand, and man, they're massive. They're doing so well now. The production is insane. It's great. And I kind of stepped away from that for a little while, but then I started to go back a little bit. I met a guy called Jay Rilla, just monstrous dude, and I listened to his music and I saw what he was doing, and then he contacted me because the referee that's still working, Conan, he's a legend in the business, man. He suggested, hey, you can contact this guy. So he contacted me. He's like, hey, could you write some music for me? And I was like, yeah, cool. Let me have a listen. And so I said, my suggestion would be this. And I sent him that, which was essentially, I was trying to make it sound real low, like Meshuggah, like it's drop F. So it's real heavy, real rhythmic. And I sent it back to him, not knowing whether or not he thought it was going to be good enough. He's like, this is perfect. I was like, great. So then I got a friend, James, who is in a New Zealand band called Lilith. And that's the guy that I've been producing, and I'm working with him on a second album at the moment, which is really cool. And yeah, some of the students, yes. So here we go. Yep. So students that I did teach, I've been working with on this album as well. The guitarist Zach Diamond. But anyway, I digress. So I sent him back this, and then he loved it. And then I finally went to go and see it when it was debuted live in December. I think it was called Nightmare Before Christmas was the show, and he had just taken on a guy called Jamie, and Jamie was a big dude, man. Like, it's a show, it's a soap opera that's performed live, right? So this guy is massive, but the fact that Jay Rilla came out and like beat him real quickly was a big momentous occasion. So his music, when it hits, it was a different version to how it was, but it kind of almost had some familiarity to it. I kept some stuff there that people could hear. But man, it was nothing cooler than seeing him like march through the arena, through the hall, let's be honest now, through the hall, but it was like an arena, to the music playing through a massive sound system.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's just, must make you feel like $1 million is that guy, but it was neat to hear that, and people reacted. So yeah, I love that stuff, man.
Yeah, that's wicked.
That stuff.
Yeah, that's wicked. So you say you used to riff wrestling?
Yeah, if I had, I mean, who knows? But yeah, I would have loved to have been able to perform as a wrestler for sure, but I just don't. At the time, I wasn't built for it. Like I was very overweight, and so as I started to lose weight, this is back in 2014, 2015, I finally was able to get in and do some refereeing. So I learnt a little bit of how that works. And actually, you know what, the real neat at the moment is Netflix. Like WWE has moved to Netflix, and no one. I know WWE is one of those things that people like. Wrestling is, you either like it or you don't.
Yeah.
But those that do like it, we understand it's a business. It is a business.
It's a story. It's an entertainment entity.
100%.
Yeah.
But I would say the one thing that wrestling fans have, those true wrestling fans, nothing reveals more about how fake somebody is in the ring when they're there than us as wrestling fans detecting it. You can always tell someone who is there but isn't. Yeah, how do you explain that? It's kind of like if someone gets in the ring and they don't own their character, we can tell that. If they own their character, we're with them.
I see.
But once the match is over, once it's all done, they're just that normal person again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's interesting because, like, I've watched a little bit of WWE and I used to watch a bit of it when I was younger, but I just couldn't get over the fact that, like, what I was watching wasn't, like, I understand it very much now, but at
Yeah.
the time it's like, well, they're not actually fighting.
No,
Well,
it's dancing.
But, yeah, it's entertainment. It's like going to like watch a live movie almost. Of
Yeah,
like
well-
you've got these characters, you've got this whole theatrical production, you've got antics, you've got like, you know, especially like in the Vince Vaughn, is that his name? The guy who did WWE. Well, no, what's that?
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And like him like coming and doing skits with everybody, and it was
Yeah.
just really funny and like entertaining. But
So-
but the actual like fight part, I don't know, for me it was always like, yeah.
Yeah, so I would always because my daughters love it too, man. I'm
That's cool.
putting, I'm
No,
putting,
there's
I'm
awesome
putting it out
videos.
here now.
Yeah.
My daughter Charlotte, she is going to be a professional wrestler when she grows up, 100%. Yep, she does cheerleading. She's doing dancing. She's sassy as anything, and we can sit down. She knows all the characters. She knows where all the storylines are at. She understands it's just a TV show, but she also understands that it's a dance, you know. And so I would encourage people sometimes to go and watch something like so Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog, and I can't remember which match it was. I should know, but it was in London. And from what I understand, the British Bulldog had probably partied way too hard the night before. So you've got, you know, thousands of fans there to see this match. You can't have somebody who can't perform.
You're
in the
hungover
ring.
and just
Yeah.
all like, ooh.
Especially when it's someone else's life in your hands, because when that person doesn't move, you know, you got to you're protecting them. You're not hurting them. And from what I understand, Bret Hart manned up and he led that whole match and made sure that everything looked good. So anytime it looks like Bret Hart's getting hurt or a move's happening, I believe Bret Hart was leading it and trying to help British Bulldog all the way through. It's things like that you can bring into the music world or bring into any part of life. I know that it's like, Ben, there's no way WWE and life are the same thing. It's like, no, but there's elements of it. Like do you know who Roman Reigns is?
No.
What about John Cena?
Of course.
Everyone knows John Cena.
Do
Do you know he's retiring?
I know all the big. Yeah, I know that. Yeah. I know all the big names.
Okay.
All
Do you
the
know
big
Logan Paul?
names.
Do you know he's in?
He's in WWE. Yeah.
I reckon he is hands down. He's one of my favorite characters at the moment. He is because he's himself.
Yeah.
The audience hates him, and he's real good at getting that.
Those
to happen.
brothers have done incredibly well of doubling down on just their personalities of just being like antagonizers and the heels. Like but they've doubled down on it in like every factor of their life, which I don't really agree with, but it's worked for them incredibly well. So I cannot sit here and be like,
sure,
don't do it because it works.
I would say that he had a podcast. He has a podcast, and he had Paul Heyman, who's like one of the most genius minds in the wrestling business because he understands the business. Like if you don't understand the business, you don't understand the business.
Yeah.
But Logan Paul seems like he's pretty smart, man. Like.
You know, but he understands entertainment well, and he understands modern entertainment. You know, the YouTube world to then online to then going into, and then him going into WWE in those factions. Like, I can see that he would do well, and he gets it.
Yeah, he's.
I just don't really like him,
Fair
that
enough.
sort of well, but. It's worked so well,
That's
so
right.
it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's
you know?
right, and if people don't like him and they're talking about him, then they're searching. Yeah, that's right.
I've said that on here before as well about it, but they do it well. And like Jake Paul had a fight with Mike Tyson. I mean, regardless of what you say, they walked away, both of them, with millions of dollars.
That's right.
Regardless of the performance, the quality of the boxing, doesn't matter. But what is a shame about boxing in the last probably 15 years, from what I can tell, not that I've only followed boxing loosely, is the quality of the sport has gone down quite a bit, which is a bit unfortunate because of things like this. Now it's become WWE, which if it wants to be that, then that's fine. But boxing
it shouldn't be.
But boxing shouldn't be that. You know,
not.
it shouldn't be. It's like fixed fights and like. You know, boxing has always been a bit of a seedy industry. I don't know if you know much about it. With like how many fights people get and like their records.
Yeah.
Like padded records and stuff. Because there's a lot of that goes on with like having a certain amount of fights, but then you don't fight this up and comer,
right?
Because they're doing too well. You
Yeah.
fight the walking like punching bag.
Yeah.
So your record still stays really high level.
Yeah, there's like there's a guy I didn't know this. There's a famous wrestler and his name is Shinsuke Nakamura and he's from Japan. So New Japan Pro Wrestling is massive, man. Like a lot of New Zealanders get over there and they perform because the Japanese audience they understand it's a show.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I
yeah.
would love to go to a show, have a few beers.
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of fun.
Dude, I'll hook you
not,
up with tickets one time.
I'm not
They
dunking
do
on
it. They do it around Mount Eden and Mount Albert Hall. So you let me know
Fun.
when you want to go. I will take you along, and you
That
can sit
sounds
in the
fun.
crowd, and you'll get to either you'll be like, nah, I'm out of here, or you'll go, yeah, that guy, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like no, like once I kind of understood that, I was like, okay, this is just like a fun show, and
Yeah.
I can get behind it. Yeah, definitely. I
I
can
think-
get behind it.
So if I then go back and say, like with music, when you put yourself out as just my own name now as opposed to Channel. Channel was a name that I used for a while because I was too scared of using my own name.
Yeah.
You know, and Channel eventually did become a band in some sense. We didn't write as much as we could together because we never really had time. But whenever we played live, we let people do what they needed to do as long as we kept our stuff together. But you know, like to really own yourself as an artist nowadays, it takes courage. So I could only imagine. I would say some of that courage I've learned because I'm seeing guys dressed up in like you know undies and
Yeah, yeah.
doing-
Crazy
Doing
outfits,
moves
doing
and, like-
strange things, saying bizarre things, and
But they own that. You know, as I said before, it's like you can tell if they're nervous. If they're, I've seen people come out and they get into the, you know, they get up into the turnbuckle and they're talking, you know, they're yelling at the crowd and getting their attention. But if nobody knows them, man, wrestling fans can be brutal.
oh yeah,
They would like not cheer for you. They won't know. You know, if you don't give them a reason to cheer. It's the same with music, man. You gotta have an image and a story. If you don't have those things, it doesn't matter how good your song is.
No, it doesn't.
It's you're not relevant.
Yeah, it's interesting how that like plays or like a much larger part to a lot of bands and artists and musicians. Like what are the kids? What's it called? The law. That's it. That's what the kids love saying
it?
these days. The law.
The law.
The law.
True. Someone's someone. You know,
What's
there's
that?
no cap, no cap right there on that one.
But what was a good example? The example that comes to my head, and this is going back a few years, I suppose, would be Asking Alexandria when they came out. Metalcore band from the UK. You know them, right?
I've heard of them, and I think I have heard of them, but I don't actively listen. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I listen to national radio. As
You
you
listen
know.
to national radio, no? But
Sorry.
anyway, so this was like 2000. This is not in 2008, 2009, and there was like the metalcore boom. I guess that happened at that time. That was just such a
Is it like Enter Shikari era as well?
yeah, that era.
I know
Like,
that my drummer from my
was-
previous band loved that stuff.
that's my favorite shit. That's my band. That's my band. But like Parkway Drive, like
Parkway Drive.
what were other bands in that? There's so many. I mean, Avenged Sevenfold, you can lump in. There's like all those bands.
sure.
Bullet for My Valentine, like that stuff was just like that was on the radio, which is crazy because it was quite heavy. But a lot of like that music would be quite, I would say, a bit rough around the edges.
Yeah.
It wasn't always as there's an image to it, but it wasn't like the pretty boy thing became a thing, and everyone would have choreographed dance moves on stage. And Asking Alexandria was one of the bands that would do that, and they got a shitload of hate when they came out. Like they just there was a
Did
few
they choreograph their throwdowns on stage?
throwdowns, headbangs.
Yo.
You know, like the crab core
Yeah,
stuff.
crab core. I love crab core. I'm down
but
with that.
But they kind of stole it, I guess, from Attack.
Attack.
What a great
yeah,
band!
I love that.
The
Love that video.
Stickly,
Yes.
it was crack up. What a song! But I
song.
guess they took a leaf out of their book, but a page out of their book. Sorry, but what I find interesting is like coming like there were a lot of bands that were better than them,
Right.
better songwriters, better musicianship, better guitarists, better drummers, vocalists, but they had a good image.
Yeah.
And they blew most of those other bands out of the water because of that.
So then the question is, and I always say to my friends, like people who are in the music industry, it's like, how do you stop yourself getting resentful to the fact that someone else is doing better than you, and you know that you've worked harder,
Yep.
and your song is better, your shows are better, you can actually play live better. Why is it that they get there and you get here? Like, eventually that wears people out.
Yeah, it can
And I've
eat. It
seen
can eat at you.
Oh, 100%,
But you got to
man.
change the meaning of what you're doing,
Correct.
and that's hard though. It's very hard to do because you're like, oh, surely I work hard, make great songs,
Yeah.
practice,
No.
rehearse, play live, put in the work. It'll pay off.
I think I mentioned this last time. I live
Nice.
my life literally one day at a time, and there is a song I re-released all of my music that I'd written at university. There's an EP on Spotify now under my name, Ben Ruegg. The photo cracks me up, bro. I'm standing on the road that goes down to Hanua Falls with my guitar, and it looks really awkward, but Luke, who took the photo, was great, and Gavin, who helped design it with me. That's cool, man. But those songs are super vulnerable. If you went and listened to that today, if you knew Channeled and you knew what's up, what you've heard already, you'd be like, what the heck is this? But then, yeah, I've come to live my life now, one day at a time, where I'm, it's not meant to sound morbid, but I could die at any time, any time. And that's okay. It's not for me to know when and how that's going to happen. And once you kind of let go of that, then, anything can take place and you're okay with that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's going back to the control thing, right?
Yeah.
How much can you really control? And the answer is, like, not much.
No, so if you think about those bands, and then, mentioned before, obscurity, then they become relevant, then all of a sudden, something that they like to do, everyone hates them, and then the people that want to get to do the thing that they're doing that everyone hates them for, they're not, and then cycle,
yeah.
and then that's it. And then you get up on stage, and then you hate doing what you're doing, and man, I pray that those people, they remember why they got into a band or why they started doing music in the first place.
I think that's also what always fascinates me now. It's like, do you want that? Like, do you want that level of prestige?
I love that question, bro.
But do you want that level of prestige? Because I don't think most people can handle it. They think they can, but I don't believe they can.
Hit it on the head.
And what I find fascinating is you watch all these documentaries about artists or bands or anybody who's very successful. It doesn't just mean musicians, but they will, the resent part, a lot of other problems start. It becomes completely different. Why you're doing it is now not why you started it.
Right.
Now it becomes more complex and there's a lot more people involved. And I think the other thing about musicians over the years, which I think younger people now probably don't understand, is like the business aspect back in the day was messier. I think it was much messier because you would just get picked up and sign the contract. It's a 5-year contract. Don't even, eyes shut, all good. And
because
suddenly,
they wanted what it was that they were trying to get for. Like that, as you said, it's like people. I don't know. I'm in the same ballpark as I think everyone. I'd give it a shot, but in most cases, I've actually not convinced myself, but I know that I'd probably want to discern on it for a little bit and think about, if, say, for example, that song comes out, Encounter or whatever, and then, say, we're sitting here right now, and just hypothetically speaking, in a year or 2 years' time, I'm on some other big show internationally, and everyone's like, what's going on here? And it's like, well, we actually just sat down together at the beginning. Would that change somebody? I hope it doesn't. Isn't that?
But also, how would you know, right?
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
That's the thing. How would you know?
Because even I don't know. It's like, I think I know myself very well.
Yeah.
I think I've done a bit of introspection, but then it's like suddenly presented with all these things that I thought were impossible.
Yeah.
Here's a few $1 million. People who love you. Now you're at this level of life in society, which is a bit, I don't know, you have a lot of influence and control and power to some point. What are you going to do with it?
Dude, that is my favorite thing to think about a lot of the time. What we think we want, and when we finally get it, it isn't necessarily what we think we wanted. And in some cases, hopefully we learn from it and it doesn't destroy us. But isn't that like ancient mythology? I can't remember, my Greek mythology and Roman mythology is terrible, but Promethea?
I know who Prometheus is.
Yeah, it was, and people that were given something that they needed or they wanted, and then they had to control it. And if you look at all of the, I love it. You've seen Mallrats, eh?
Mallrats?
It's a movie by Kevin Smith, and it's got Jay and Silent Bob in it. Have you seen this? And
I've seen parts
Stan
of
Lee,
it. I've seen
Stan Lee there.
I know the movie you're talking about.
Yeah. Have you seen the scene with Stan Lee? And he comes up and he talks to one of the guys that's in the movie about the different characters, about how, I can't remember who it was exactly, but these characters like the Hulk. It's actually a story about this thing, and this is what happens when this happens. And it was like he was tying in real life scenarios as to that the effect that it had on somebody. You never seen it, dude? You got to go watch it. Just type in Stan Lee.
All right.
Mallrats, you'll find that scene. It's worth it.
Cool. Yeah. I'll have to check it out. But yeah, it's a lot of things that people believe will get into a certain place in life, certain position, then they believe it will solve all the problems.
Yeah.
The problems are still going to be there. Maybe obviously I don't have in like crazy money. I think that would obviously de-stress things, definitely.
100%.
But I do believe also like the other problems you've been carrying your whole life aren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There seems to be a lot of people who come out, even who are very successful, who say like, "Yep, okay, I got to sort out a few things, but like problems, debts, and that sounds amazing, sounds great. I'd love that too. But does that mean that it's going to solve all the other problems? Probably.
And
not.
I would say, don't. In my mind, I always say, don't let those things stop you from doing it. Though, like, dude, if you really think that your song is going to get you on radio and you should, that's what you want, man, go for it. Like, you'll never know unless you try. That's my, again, like when we think about dating has changed a lot, man. And like, I don't know anymore because I'm obviously married and been married very happily for a long time. But when I think about how people met back in the day, they couldn't just text someone or use Tinder. You had to take a leap of faith to go up to the person that you wanted to meet. And if those moments did not take place, then a lot of us wouldn't be here on Earth. And that's, gut-wrenching. You learn those as kids at high school. You can see all the like kids like getting attracted to somebody, and then nowadays they can just go on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. But to sit there and maybe play a board game together or play cards together where you're not distracted, that's a skill and a mindset shift of oh man, I'm going to expose who I really am to somebody because I'm hanging out with them. Again, that's. Sorry to throw in the wrestling thing there, but that's why
that's cool.
A lot of the times when we can tell when somebody's nervous. A good wrestling fan who believes it, we're a bit nice to them because man, that's a hard gig to have. But yeah, anything like that, like when a new artist wants to break out, I encourage them. Don't let the fear of anything get in your way, and if it does, you kind of either need to find someone who can give you some things to think about. And the best decision should always come from you. I always like getting advice and giving advice to people for sure, but I always tell them, don't do and act on my advice until you know that that's true, because by that time it becomes your advice because you've filtered it through your lens view and your mindset.
You got to weigh it up.
100%.
You got to weigh it up. People will give you all kinds of advice and things that you should do and how you should live and what's the best thing. But at the end of the day, your life experience is entirely different. So what you got to do is take it all into like a part and then be like, that applies kind of, this doesn't apply.
Well, that's why
you kind of progress on.
That's like those two songs, and then man, I remember in my head just going, I want to play the Hawkins Theatre. Like, I just want to play a show at a theatre in my home city, and the logistics of figuring out how that's going to work and if it's going to work at all at the time was freaky. But the first thing I needed to do was to book the venue. So I'd gone in and found out about how much it costs. What's the deal? When do I have to pay what by? And I walked in, I met the staff, and we looked at the board and we picked a date, May the 3rd. I thought, unintentionally, it's obviously New Zealand Music Month, but at the same time, it gave me plenty of time to figure out how this thing is actually going to function.
Yeah.
And so
just get it in the calendar.
That's it, man. Put it in the calendar. And then I figured out, okay, now who do I get? Who do I get to help me? And by that stage, I figured out Heidi and Michelle, who we jammed together at high school since 1998. Man, what a cool story to tell. The young kids who we loved hanging out in the music room together, playing music. That was our thing. We was just, like everyone else was doing other things. I wasn't a sporty person, so music was my life. And then when you leave high school, kids don't understand this. I don't understand it as much as obviously I was told, but like you have to fend for yourself essentially and learn how to navigate your way through bills and money and all sorts of relationship problems. Responsibilities. But to then come back around and say to ourselves, how cool is it going to be that we could potentially like sell out the Hawkins Theatre, which I've never played. I always wanted to play it, and play some of the songs that we wrote at high school, which is like for us freaking cool, man. And then a bunch of new songs, and then invite some friends on stage with us to play some old songs from uni that were designed to have, like in some cases, like strings and saxophone and man, like the songwriting course I did at uni wasn't really about. It was more about pushing you to challenge yourself instead of writing the same song.
Organizing a venue. What's the capacity for it?
226. I have to sell at least. I figured out, like, if I get 60 people in there, it's enough. I don't really mind. Like, dude, if 60 people are there, even if I have to pay a little bit of extra money to cover the cost of the venue, I'm cool with that. I'm not going to get sour about that. It's the thing is that going into that to the office on that day and actually just seeing them put it up on the board and then going through the process of going to use Event Finder and preparing the event and so forth. That journey since has been one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life. It's so fun, man.
Right? I miss doing that with events because I did a bit of event stuff myself and planning gigs and things like that. And a part of that experience is really fun. There's
a mantra and I was thinking about it the whole time. It's from Wayne's World 2. It's when Jim Morrison comes and he speaks to Wayne. He's like, book them and they will come. I was thinking, that's kind of what I thought. It's like, book the show, have a plan. But you know what? The cool thing about a plan is that I've actually stopped worrying so much about a plan. I've been focusing more on noticing opportunity. That's a mind shift, man. Like, this is the goal. This is how I want it to go. Good luck with having that go the way that you want it to go. The best way to do it would be this is what I want. And then if I'm at the right place at the right time, which you just don't know, there'll be somebody there all the time. There'll be something there and which will give you something to think about, to move towards, or an actual person that you need to have a conversation with. It's just cool. I don't know. It's really bizarre. Last time I was here, I was talking about Deepak Chopra, probably, in that book, Creating Affluence. That was given to me in 2020, man, before I'd had my seizure, and I would listen to that every day, and it just sounds like Harry Fairy Gobbledygook. But to be fair, it might be, but it tells a cool story. And the last thing on that idea around not knowing, is someone says something really profound. It's like, do you ever pick up a book and just go straight to the last page and find out what happened? Or do you think the characters in the book know that that's going to be the case? And I was like, no, you kind of, it's a rhetorical question because the answer is obviously, no, they didn't. And normally the writer who even writes those books doesn't know what's going to happen to those characters. They just, show writers, movie writers, no one knows. So if I've started to treat my life as more of I'm on a bit of an adventure because, I'm 42 this year. So let's say if I get a good innings in another 60 years when I die, so
102.
A few generations down from there, who is going to remember what I did in my family line? Like, will my grandkids and my grandkids know who I was or who my wife was or who my kids were? No one knows, man. I think that's such a...
trying to create a legacy, I suppose, isn't it?
But it could also just be a cool story. There'll be somebody that's done something stupid in their life, and then that's the thing that made these things happen, and so it's a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, I think, as well, how much you want your life to be remembered and a legacy you leave behind.
Sure.
Whatever that may be.
Be a pro wrestler. That will leave a legacy.
That'd be a pretty cool one, right? Yeah, do something like that. Go and do some fights and stuff. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, trying to... Professional athletes, like, I think especially in the combat world, like, because I'm a little bit involved doing MMA stuff, like, it's just... I just find it insane what people go through to get themselves and to go and pursue these things professionally.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild. I think it's more... Well, it's a lot more dangerous than doing music. So it's like, wow, like, people are like that are very... you got to be a certain... what's the word? Cut from a certain cloth.
You gotta have grit. Is that the word to use? Like,
grit. Yeah. You gotta have grit, and you gotta be cut from a certain cloth to do it, and certain background to be I'm gonna pursue combat fighting, and I'm gonna make my life from this, and there's no other way to do it. This is it, and it's just, I just find that incredible. I do it. I just
I don't know what it must be like to because obviously wrestling is fixed in the sense that they book the ending so that they can tell a story. That's known. But MMA, you're in the... I don't even know what they must feel like to know that you're about to get your face pummeled by somebody and you have to defend yourself.
Yeah, it's because there's always like there's the entertainment aspect to it beforehand, the lead up to the fight and things like that, but nowhere near the level of obviously wrestling and WWE. No. But once you're in the cage and that door shuts, like... Who knows what's going to happen, brother?
Brock Lesnar left the wrestling world for a while and went into the MMA. But
he did really well.
Did he?
Yeah, he became champ.
Yeah, I did see that.
He became champion.
But was that because of brute force, or was he actually a good technical fighter?
He's a good fighter.
Okay, good.
He's a good fighter. And back then, especially with UFC in particular, the competition was dominated by, I think, a lot of people who were very good at one thing and all right at the other. So
Yeah.
you're very good at striking.
Yeah.
But once it gets to the ground, probably a bit crap. Or you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you're very good on the ground, striking might be okay.
Yeah.
But the wrestling part, there was a few guys who do wrestling, but the wrestlers would always do the best.
Yeah,
Because in MMA, if you got great wrestling, you control the fight.
Yes.
You
of course,
control
yeah,
where it goes.
Yep.
So someone like Brock Lesnar did very well because he was a great, amazing wrestler. And another guy like that was DC. I don't know if you know who that is. Daniel, he was an Olympic wrestler and then went into a UFC. And apart from John Jones, the greatest of all time, who beat him twice, he never lost. I think he only lost to, what was the other guy's name? I've totally forgotten it. So he lost like 3 fights in his career. I think he won like 25 MMA fights.
Frick.
But also because his wrestling was just that good. That no one's wrestling was... Because it's so impactful wrestling, right? Like getting taken down over and over and over again. It's exhausting. Like I've done a bit of it and it's freaking exhausting. And getting back up and then taken down again and getting back up. And a lot of people, I think in the MMA world, it depends on what you start in. But a lot of people in the Western world don't, maybe Americans, but often don't start in wrestling. They'll do boxing, they'll do kickboxing, they'll do maybe karate or something, taekwondo.
Yeah, yeah.
But wrestling's not.
No, I mean, the wrestling world really is... Man, we're talking a lot about wrestling. I'm happy for that. Sorry about your podcast listeners.
No,
they can turn it off. But
No, I talk about everything on
like Brock Lesnar, he became really good on the microphone. In the wrestling world, you got to have a good chat game, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know who CM Punk is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
He came over to the
Yes, he
UFC
did,
as well.
yeah. So he's just come back after being 10 years away from the business. And I think the coolest thing that they've done with his storyline is it's true. The cool thing is it's true as well. He ditched the company for 10 years. So to have someone come just waltz back in, and you've got, like, you know, underdogs. Like, say if my daughter did go to become a wrestler and she worked her way up going through the business and she learned all the things, and she was really good on the mic, and she had an opportunity to be given the belt. Like, if you get given the belt, what they're saying to you is that we know that you're bringing money to the company, and so you're the face. They call it the face, right? The face of the company.
Yeah.
So imagine you're this close to getting that title to be that person, and you've been working 15 years, and then someone who disappeared for 10 years comes back, and then now they're going to get given it? Come on, man. That must annoy some people. And the way that they've told that story...
I don't like how that works.
CM Punk has just been so good, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because CM Punk is... he wasn't liked by a lot of people, and from what I understand, in the locker room, because like, you know, he took off and now he's back, but he's also different. He admits now he's way chiller, man. Like, apparently the locker room situation, because the locker room in wrestling, you got to think about it as well. It's like they're all touring around together and they're meant to not like each other for the story, but in real life as well, they probably don't like each other. And then they have to get into a ring, and then they have to perform with each other. And they call it working. You work that person, they work you to give a show to the audience that's there. You've got to be able to do that without people, you know, without it getting too personal. Like, you're not going to... If you bust someone open for real, like, you'll be in a lot of crap. If you smack someone with a chair on the back and they know that's happening, and it's like, you know, that they're designed to take that stuff. There's some things that they just won't do, but... Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, if you were to get a chair and, like, really smack them and try to hurt them, you'd probably get stood down. That's happened from time to time in some matches, for sure, but...
So I find so interesting about wrestling is all that choreography.
Yeah.
And, like, just those, like, with like, how they hit each other and how they take people down and, like, the acting that goes into it.
Yep.
It's pretty incredible, really. I'm not surprised that someone like John Cena became an actor. And especially Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Like, not saying they're just cut above incredible actors, but I can see why they're so good at what they do with themselves in big Hollywood productions. It makes complete sense. So I feel like a lot of people who die in that wrestling world could go on to be great actors, actresses.
Not
all of them. You know what I mean? Like, you'll have they have all the the toolbox of skills
Sure.
to be able to go and do that. If they probably tried and went to like maybe like an acting school,
Yeah.
they'd probably do better than a lot of other people.
They 100%. So
That's kind of what I mean. They have the skill set kind of already
I think
inbuilt.
we were talking about technical metal. I'm going to bring in wrestling into technical metal and
Let's go.
technical, progressive rock, and that is that a good wrestler in the ring in the business of pro wrestling understands the audience. If you get someone in there who's like flashy and just does all the moves real quickly, doesn't tell a story, maybe they're the most technical person. Sure, that's cool, but boring to watch, man. You need to have ups and downs. Now, the cool thing is that like in the wrestling world, you'd have they'll plan. They're called spots, right? So they'll plan when something big happens for sure. They'll set up a ladder, they'll set up a table. If you watch WWE, I can always tell that person is going through a ladder at some stage because they've set it up and they've left it. And there'll be other things like that. But the rest of it, they have to figure out in the ring, communicating with each other. And the person you're working with, if they're flashy and technical and they don't care about you as well, they're just caring about themselves, man, that must be hard to work with. So someone like John Cena and the Rock, they know the crowd. They know how to work the crowd. And Logan,
The best to ever do it. Yeah.
Logan Paul is a God-given natural to this business, man. Like, he knows how to work the crowd.
Yeah.
And he's really good. Like, technically, his new finisher, I think we all saw the other day, man, that looks awesome. But then he has to respect all of the elders in the locker room that have been doing this business for a long time. You can't just come in, young gun, YouTube superstar, go main event WrestleMania and expect like you'll get respect from those who've been doing this their whole career.
You haven't put in the groundwork.
And apparently he has. Apparently some people hate him, but yeah. You obviously hate him, which is fine. I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know him as a person, obviously, but it's just more the things that he goes after and does in his businesses. But hey, it works, so hey, don't let me, get in the way of that. But it's just funny for me because it's such a different world from like other combat sports. It's just like it's so interesting because it's just a completely separate world.
100%.
That everything that happens in there. Yes, there will be some skills that can apply. Like some people can do very well, like Brock Lesnar, and then CM Punk, even like UFC. A few of those guys, if they do come over and commit themselves, like I'm now in this fight business, I need to it would be really interesting to like probably hear what they would say about their mind shift change, or someone going from MMA into WWE because you're doing this. It's a 180, because you go in there like I am here to win. I am here to be flashy. Yes. I am here to just knock this guy out and kill him. Until the ref comes in and says no. Yeah. But in wrestling, it should be so.
It's called booking. They call it booking. They book someone to win because they need to tell a story. So if you're like a really great wrestler, like Shinsuke Nakamura, as I was mentioning before, apparently he just hangs out in NXT and gets beaten by people or something like that, so he gets his paycheck and he doesn't have to do too much work. I think that's awesome, But like he's actually very skilled. He's a really good like wrestler. So
very very good technical wrestler.
He should be booked to win and have they call it a run, so John Cena's his farewell tour is going to be real interesting this year, man.
Yeah, to check it out when he look us up online.
I could talk about wrestling all day, but we should probably move on to
that's all right. We'll probably nearing the end. I normally do quickfires, but I've kind of done them with you already before, so
but have another go if you want.
I'll have another go. The latest could be a local international band or artist you've been listening to at the moment that you really like.
Okay, to be fair, the last track I heard was the new Boondocks song, Bombs.
That's good.
Yeah, and again, like those guys, former students of mine. I don't really would say Scott was a former student. I taught him, but that guy just knows what he wants and how to do it. I always have respected him. Yeah. And then Brandon I did work with, but you know what? They've got their sound and they know it and they keep owning it and they keep like refining it and it's perfect and I applaud them for that. I think that was cool. And also I will throw a shout out to Casey Henderson. She shows up on the radio and 11:59 is the song that the kids in my car know and I've listened to it. She's great too, man. Killing it.
So it's interesting with you say your daughter wants to do wrestling and get into that. Have you what's it been like watching her? Has she done any practice?
No, she's come to a training session and sees that it's not a joke. You have to be able to do a lot of squats and running, and you have to be trusted to lift up somebody and not hurt them. When you're in a ring with somebody, if you're puffed, 5 minutes into your match and it's a 20-minute match and that's how long it's been booked for, if you lift up somebody and they're doing a move and you're puffed, and you're likely to drop them. So you have to prove yourself in the ring. So she saw that. So she came along with me this morning to do park run, even though she walked it. But she'll do park run. She has run 5K. She can run 5K. So, and she does cheerleading, and that's a discipline.
Yeah, you got to be very athletic and flexible, and
for sure
to have the endurance. So yeah, very cool. Let's go with what's something new you've learned in the studio recently?
Oh, Melodyne, how to use that better.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you know that?
I know. Yeah, I know.
I know.
Pitch
Auto-tune.
correction.
If you use, if you go online and type in my name, actually you'll like this now that you said T-Pain. Go find a song called Shore, T. That was back in 2000 and it must have been 9 or 10 when I first got auto-tune. And I found out if you set it to a scale and cranked it up, you sound like T-Pain. So I did that, and I wrote a song called Shorty because on YouTube there was that's right. On YouTube there was it was called Auto-Tune the News. Have you ever seen this? Dude, go and do it. Auto-Tune the News. They would take news clips and auto-tune the vocals using I think Melodyne was what they were using at the time. And so there would be this thing where you go, Shorty. So I did that. And so I figured instead of having my song called Shorty, I called it Shore, T with a question mark. But if you listen to it, my friends think I'm saying Sade, like a girl's name, and I'm not. It's just the most funniest, stupidest track that I have available, yeah.
Sounds like it. Let's go with one more. What's a recent, let's go with a recent live artist or band or student you've seen recently that blew you away?
Artists okay. I would say, to be fair, as much hate as they get, man. I saw Coldplay last year. I last minute bought a ticket to go and stand in GA by myself. I saw them at St. James in 2001. That was the last time I'd seen them. And at that stage, they were just coming out with Russia Cold Blood to the Head. And my grandma had bought me at Marbeck's Records. Was it Marbeck's? On Queen Street in 2001.
Marbeck's. Yep.
She bought me Parachutes, and that was the first introduction I had to Coldplay. So, and I love that album to death, man. And then the next one, Russia Cold Blood, I love that. So to have seen them live as it's still a 4-piece, doing really organic rock with no backing tracks that I could tell, to then them doing a massive stadium show that is fully on the rails, except for some moments where they obviously turn off the click. They are so good live. They are just they seem like the most down-to-earth, humblest guys that, again, have gone from no one likes them because they wrote Yellow to they're writing massive pop hits with Max Martin. What that does to somebody, but that was for me probably one of the most eye-opening moments of just, man, this is what could happen to you. And then he seems to do it like Chris Martin does it in a very positive way. But when they were playing, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, they just all were in the zone. My favorite moment of that whole show was when they went down the back and they played Shiver, which is off Parachutes. It's just acoustic. No one really knew any of the songs that were from their earlier albums because obviously they dominate the top 40 with their newer stuff, but best stuff was from their earlier stuff for me anyway. That would be, I would say that. I know that's not necessarily a local artist, but it's just it's
just anyone in general.
It's just a reminder of, man, if you put the hard work into it, there's no guarantee you'll get successful, but if you do your best to keep your feet on the ground.
You're more likely to get it if you do something, if you are working at it. And, okay, last one. Okay. Where can people find you? What do you got up? What do you got going on?
Yeah, so thank you. So, just type in my name, Ben Ruegg, Ruegg. It's an interesting name, but I own that now for sure, man. And you can find me on Instagram and Spotify and Apple Music, and go buy tickets to our shows, like $20 plus a booking fee because of Event Finder. It's May the 3rd. It is going to be a cool, unique experience of some old high school friends that still do music as part of their life, getting on stage and reminiscing and playing, but we'll make sure that the audience enjoys it because they're going to be seated, so they have to. Otherwise, we'll do our best. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to hopefully look pretty cute.
Awesome. Oh, bro, great to have you on again.
Thank you.
And best of luck with everything you got going on.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for everyone for listening. Catch you later.
Bye.
Nice, bro.